Hello everyone, Mr. Lipchick here, and this segment will be about changes in supply. That is when the amount supplied changes at all possible price levels. What are the factors affecting supply? A change in the cost of inputs will affect supply. A rise in the cost of inputs will cause an increase in the marginal cost of producing that item. The marginal cost becomes higher. If the marginal cost becomes higher than the price, that is the marginal revenue, the firm will cut production until the marginal cost is equal to the price. So the supply curve will shift to the left, as you can see in the diagram. And supply, that will indicate that supply is falling anytime the supply curve shifts to the left. The quantity of a good supplied at all prices is changed as a result of changes in the cost of inputs. The market price of a good remains the same. If a business experiences a fall in the cost of inputs, the supply curve will shift to the right. The marginal cost of production will have dropped, and the business must make more goods in order to maximize its profit. That is its goal, to maximize profit. Changes in the cost of inputs are known as non-price determinants, as they do not occur as a result of change in the market price of a good. Advances in technology. In the 1800s, manufacturers began to create the assembly process that used interchangeable parts and assembly lines. How would this increase the productivity and supply? It made a great deal of specialization. It saved a great deal of time. No longer did they have to hand manufacture every conceivable part. One person could specialize on each part, and somebody could assemble them at the end of the assembly line. Henry Ford took this principle to new heights in the 1920s and produced thousands of Model Ts at affordable prices. Today, with robotic assembly lines, it continues to become cheaper to make cars, and more are on the road every year. The overall impact of technology is to lower production costs and increase supply. Government influence on supply. In order to affect public policy, the government will pass laws and regulations that will influence the supply of certain goods. One method that the government uses in order to do this is through subsidies. A subsidy is a government payment that supports a business or a market. The U.S. government subsidizes farmers for not growing too much of certain crops. If the subsidy were not offered, the market would be flooded with crops and farmers would go broke. If the farmers went broke, they would stop farming, leading to food shortages. So these subsidies stabilize food prices for the American consumer. By paying farmers to limit production, food prices are kept at a profitable level and the food supply remains abundant. The government also uses excise taxes. An excise tax is a tax on suppliers and sellers that increase the cost of some goods. And this is used to reduce consumption of harmful products like tobacco and alcohol. The government will also pass regulations in order to influence supply. Regulation is government intervention in a market that affects the production of a good. If a factory is creating pollution, the government might make them install environmental controls to contain the pollution. The cost of these devices would shift supply of its product to the left, but it would reflect the true cost of making the product instead of creating an externality by having everyone else breathe in the pollution. The government can also pass import and export restrictions on goods from other countries. These would have the effect of shifting the supply curve for these goods to the left. A loosening of trade barriers would shift the supply curve to the right. And there are other influences on supply. Just as future expectations of price changes affects demand, it will also affect supply. If prices are expected to drop, a producer might put more of a product on the market now in order to avoid future losses. If a producer expects prices to rise, he or she might sell less of a product on the market and wait for the increase in price. There is a positive relationship between the number of suppliers in a market and the supply of a good. If more suppliers enter the market, the supply curve will shift to the right. If suppliers leave the market, the supply curve will shift to the left. The decision of where to produce, where to create your supply. The question of where a firm will locate its production facilities has a lot to do with transportation costs. When inputs are expensive to transport, a firm will locate close to its input suppliers. When a firm's outputs are more expensive to transport than its inputs, it will locate closer to consumers. An example, soft drink makers locate their factories closer to consumers because the soft drinks are mostly water. Therefore, they will use local water to make the soft drinks and save on transportation costs. A firm may also have to consider scarce resources that it uses in deciding where to locate. Firms are usually attracted to populated areas because of the availability of labor. Thinly populated areas are not a good location for a labor-intensive industry. So to review, when the marginal cost of an item becomes higher than the marginal price, the supply curve will shift to the left. When the marginal cost of an item becomes lower than the price, the supply curve will shift to the right. The cost of inputs will affect the quantity of an item supplied, and government will influence supply with subsidies, excise taxes, and regulations. And firms must consider available supplies of human and other resources when deciding where to locate. Thank you for attending, and I look forward to seeing you in the live lessons. Have a great day.